Hello everyone, this is Ashwin Rao coming at you with my review of the Crew Ñonpareil Ashway II. Well, this is an idea that was a collaboration between Crew Ñonpareil, led by Ken Winsmall, using a design that I came up with, so thence the bias right there, and executed by Gina Bootmaker out of Bandung, Indonesia. So Crew Ñonpareil took my idea of the Ashway #1 and turned it into something what I think is even more elevated in terms of being a dressier version of the Ashway boot, and I'm really excited to take a look at it with you today. The Ashway boot is essentially a derivative of the Edward Green Galway. So we're gonna start this unboxing by showing you the cool box that Crew Ñonpareil includes. So without further ado, here's the Ashway II boot, which I think is an absolutely beautiful version of the original Ashway boot, which I'm going to feature in a few photos here. The original Ashway, as you can see, has a triple row of stitching, whereas this model has a brogued pattern that you can see right here that replaces the triple row of stitches. There are still 3 rows of stitches, but the first and second layers are separated by this alternating large and double small brogue pattern, classic. I think of my original Ashway as more of a rugged take on the Edward Green Galway, and this is almost a more elevated or dressy take on the Galway. This is made from brown leather. This is a horsebutt leather from the Maryam tannery. For those of you who do not know the Maryam tannery, it is an Italian tannery that has grown in reputation for their high quality horsebutt leathers. So they seem to be one of the key players these days in supplying a number of the more innovative makers. And I think it's the properties of this Maryam leather, the softer handle, the propensity of that leather to roll, the rich colors, the nice grain structure that offer a really nice alternative to, say, leathers from the Kanseria Chloe, Shinki Hikaku, and then obviously the Horween tannery, as amongst many others. So Maryam tannery should be one of those tanneries you're looking at if you're interested in high quality horsebutt leathers. And I think that horsebutt leathers actually wear a little bit more ruggedly than your traditional calf leathers, and they have a propensity to roll, but not quite in the same manner as your cordovan leathers. These are essentially the layers that surround and top off that cordovan and have a more robust handle, but just some really nice properties that I think will add to the longevity of a boot such as this. So the Ashway style really is characterized by this upward sweeping peak that is coupled with a country style boot with this extended tab that comes down from the facing. It's a derby style boot and a very classic back heel stay, pretty typical of many of the Indonesian makers, but I think adds a nice, elegant, beautiful design that makes it unique from all angles. So from behind, it has a very clean aesthetic here, and then almost a more fancy dress-like aesthetic from the back here. So I really love the broguing that you see along the cap toe here, and if I bring this in, you can see how nicely Gina has done to execute that. Really high levels of stitch density, really clean work done with the machine stitching. You don't see the track work of the machine at all. They've also done a nice job to provide a little shine to this leather. And obviously the broguing then transitions to this 180 degree Norwegian welt, which we're going to talk about a little bit in a moment. Gina also has a unique side panel here. This was somewhat derivative initially of the model that Winston Shoemaker and Midas Bootmaker use, which has this curved profile, but they've added this little peak here to the stitching that I think adds another repetitive pattern that I like as well. You can see that the stitching is done with a contrast upper stitching. I think this is a natural stitch to complement the mid-brown leather, and I really love the color here of this leather and how it rolls and provides a nice shape to the shoe. Another difference between the Ashway I and the Ashway II is that this particular last is different. This has a soft square last with a bit of a chiseled toe. If I turn the boot onto its profile, you can see this slight downward facing angle. Welt. This is a braided Norwegian welt, really beautifully executed braided Norwegian welt. So you can see 180 degrees of stitching along the bottom part of the upper here. And then there is a joint to the upper going to the outsole here. And you can see the outsole stitching, which goes all the way to 270 degrees. And look at how clean that stitching is. I hope that came through in my last video where I showed pictures here, but here you go and you can see how incredibly nice the stitch work done is, let alone the 180 degree braided welt. Everything is executed to near perfection, if not perfection. This is a Vibram lug Commando sole, very rugged sole. This is great for almost the urban commando style look. This is the type of sole that can occasionally catch pebbles and dirt. So if you're trudging around in less habitable or more typically rugged climates and surroundings, this might catch some extra dirt and grud in the bottom of the shoe, but will provide you with incredible amounts of traction as an exchange. We'll see 5 eyelets followed by 3 speed hooks. These are antique brass speed hooks, which work really well. And then if you take a look at the collar here, that folded over horsebutt leather and this unique back heel tab that includes a pull tab right there. And they really skive down their leather. And I got a few pictures from Gina recently about how they do that skiving to shave down the leather to make these joints more elegant. You can see that as well along the front of the facing where the leather is skived down here and here to create lovely joints between the facing and the rest of the shoe. The boot is about 7 inches tall, and I think that in my next model I might try for one that's slightly shorter if that's possible, just to give a different look. And working with Kenwin right now to order this model in a different leather. So just so you know, this is Kenwin's model, but I will be ordering my own pair relatively soon because of how much I'm in love with the design as well as the execution by Gina Bootmaker. I love that this is a global project headed by Kenwin in Trinidad and Tobago, the owner of crew Ñonpareil. My design taken and modified by Kenwin, and then obviously Gina Bootmaker putting this all together into a model that in the real world truly shines. Gina is obviously using some really top quality lasts. This last has some really nice arch support built in to the inside of the shoe and partly supported by just the shape of the last. But the footbed also has some arch support, which I really like in my Ashway I model. This one also has a gusseted tongue, which is the same in my other model. So will provide some additional protection against the rain. And then you can see the high quality work done on the stitching. One thing I love about Gina is how high quality all of the work done is. There's very few faults, if any, even toughly more challenging areas to execute, such as this joint right at the top of the peak right there. You can see how the brogue hole is positioned almost perfectly with that peak. So you have to almost start the broguing here and project it out either way to create this pattern. Really, really well done, and you can see the same pattern right there. So just little details that really stick out to me. So hopefully I've given you some up close and personal details and a perspective on how much I love this country boot style pattern, a take on the Galway called the Ashway II, and the second collaboration between myself, Gina Bootmaker, and of course crew Ñonpareil with Kenwin Small. Hope you're all doing well. Give these guys a serious look. You can't argue with this. I'm gonna ship this back to Kenwin now because these are his personal boots, and wanted to give you a video perspective on them before I let them fly. Have a good one, and bye.